He said he never called. They wouldn't listen to him.
Do you think he will listen to you?
When
you say just talk, when did you talk to him?
2 hours ago.
Okay.
He called me, I didn't call him. And our country has been poisoned, okay? They're all threats to our nation. She would have no idea what we're talking about.
Do you think 2024 could be one of those years that we look back and say they lost the African-American vote?
The real threat isn't global warming. The real threat is nuclear warming. Right?
That's not the question I'm asking, if I may. Just let's go in the middle of the ocean and talk. You have to set your phone aside.
If I were president, that war would have never happened.
Who were really the power players? Who were the manipulators? Who were the ones that would threaten them behind closed doors?
No, I don't want to put you in trouble. More beautiful than any word I know, Tara.
If I buy this in U.S. and it's made in U.S., it's $2,400.
Well, let me explain. Can you send me that chart? Look at that.
I spent some time with Bill.
He loved having you that night. You're like a psychiatrist for a lot of people. Because this stuff is very good. Well, let's end the show right now.
So before you watch this interview, I want to share a couple thoughts with you. For a guy like me, I used to come up in business. I never liked politics, never paid attention to it. I could care less. My parents got a divorce, or I don't want to deal with it. I hate politics. Then I realized it matters to pay attention to politics. I'm starting to pay a lot of money. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is this all about? If you consider yourself the leader of your household, never has there been a more important time than today to pay attention to politics. By the way, if you love Trump and you're already committed to voting for him, you're going to love this interview because there's a lot of things he's never talked about before. If you hate Trump and nothing can change your mind, you're also going to love this interview. But if you're part of the independent, undecided voter that's sitting there saying, I really want to make up my mind of who I'm voting for, I address 3 issues. Personal life. I asked him a question at the end about personal that played a clip for him. You'll get to decide if you got emotional or not. You'll see body language for yourself and say, I'd never seen this side before of him, right? I asked him questions about business. I asked him a question about when he became president, you went into the White House first, who were the power players? Who was the most, was it director of CIA? Was it Big Pharma? Was it military? Who was it? I never thought the answer he was going to give me and what name he gave to some of the people. I've never heard him say that before. He reacted to a few videos about Barack Obama. I showed him a couple charts he had never seen before. But all I will tell you is you're going to see things that's never been discussed with him before for the first time ever in this interview. So with that being said, again, if you consider yourself the leader of your household, where your voice matters, your vote matters, I would pay attention to every single minute of this interview with the one and only President Donald J. Trump.
30 seconds. Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close, I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving values contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we get no value to haters. How they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
So we have a special guest in the house today for the podcast. We've been waiting to do this for a long time. However, whether you love him or hate him, there's one thing you have to know. In my opinion, he is the only trifecta we've ever had in the history of America. Let me tell you why I call him a trifecta. We've only had one person who's won in business and became the king of New York, became a billionaire. That's one. 2, he won in media, #1 show, Apprentice, 15 years in a row. 3, he becomes a president. So you got, he won in business, he won in media, he won in politics. Again, there's never been a person who's done that. Like I said, whether you love him or hate him, you have to respect them. Mr. President, it's great to have you.
That was a nice introduction.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You are a one of one.
Yeah, let's end the show right now.
Okay, so I want to get right into it. I got a lot of questions I want to ask you. Some of it's personal, some of it's business, some of it's politics. But something happened last week. Barack Obama, he's at this event, he's speaking.
Right.
And he's given this message about your economy, how great the economy was. And then at the end of it, he says, you know, you didn't build that economy. I built this. I kind of want to get your reaction on this talk that is given. Rob, if you can put that up.
And the reason some people think, well, I don't know, I remember that economy when he first came in being pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good because it was my economy. We had 75 straight months of job growth that I handed over to him. It wasn't something he did. I had spent 8 years cleaning up the mess that the Republicans had left me the last time. So just in case everybody has a hazy memory, he didn't do nothing except those big tax cuts.
So how do you feel about this when you see him saying this last week?
I think he's angry. He pretends not to be, but I think he's an angry guy. He's a nasty guy. He's got a little bit of an edge, and he's angry about a lot of things. You look at what happened with Biden, and you look at what he did with Biden. He really hurt Biden because I'm not sure he wouldn't have imploded anyway. We had the debate, and he was down quite a bit, and they walked out, and they just took it away from him. I mean, if you think about it, they stole the election from a sitting president. That's, I always say coup, but the word coup, I don't think it's accurate enough. They just walked in and took it away from him. That is a legendary thing. He didn't want to give up. He's angry now. They're all angry, the Democrats, if you think. She's angry. They're both angry. But, no, I watched that last week, and I think he spoke down to black men. I thought it was terrible the way he spoke to them.
You think it's effective? You think he still carries the same stick as he did, maybe 8 years ago or 12 years ago?
No, I don't think it is. No, I don't think he does. I think people have gotten smart. And no, I don't believe he does at all. I hadn't seen him. He's changed a lot. Visually, he's changed. I like to say visually as opposed to from the look standpoint, because, of course, looks don't matter anymore in politics, You say looks don't matter. It doesn't make any difference, right? Because we want to be politically correct, but they do matter. But he's changed. His look has changed, actually, quite a bit. I haven't seen him in a long time.
And by the way, Rob, I think that's even 4 years ago. I think it's even more than it is
Well,
today.
no, but the statement he just made was a couple of days ago. And that
it was a couple of days ago. And it's similar to the statement he made back in 2012 when he told business owners, you didn't build that. Remember when he said that? I don't know if you remember that whole comment. I think this is the speech, Rob, if you want to play this.
If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
So this becomes a pattern of
communism.
You see a pattern of communism there?
No, I mean, that's basically the view. We didn't do anything.
Right.
Government did it. Somebody did it, but anybody but us.
Do you think this works with the undecided voter? Do you think the undecided voter that's sitting, our audience, they're entrepreneurs, they're small business owners, they're family, they have kids, they want to win, they got dreams, they want to do something. Do you think a message like that from him lands on the business owner, on the undecided voter, on the person that says, you know what, I think he's right, I'm going to go vote for him? Do you think it works?
I think you don't have that many undecided voters. I think by now you have very strong Trump voters. I don't think you have strong Democrat voters, but I don't think you have strong Kamala voters. What's to vote for? I mean, take a look. She can't do an interview. Has she been in here to do an interview?
No, not yet.
I don't think you'll see her.
She's claiming she's going to go on Rogan.
Well, that'll be interesting. So am I.
I heard.
But I think I am. I don't know. I think so. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens today with Brett Baer. Brett's two people. He can be very nice or he can be himself.
He was tough on you. If he's tough on her the way he was tough on you, he was very tough on you.
He was always nasty to me. And
right.
I don't think he'll be tough on her. I don't think he'll be. Fox is a very disappointing thing. During the day, Fox is just terrible. And
I want to show something with this. When you look at this whole Barack Obama thing, I think the one thing they don't show, you were talking yesterday, I think it was the Bloomberg event, which, by the way, I loved. Yeah. I loved the way you handled the whole terrorist conversation. That was a great event.
I got hoodwinked to go on that. I was supposed to make a speech in front of the Chicago Economic Club, which is a big deal, which is a very prestigious place, beautiful. Everything was beautiful. And all of a sudden, I understand I'm being interviewed by this gentleman. And he's got a reputation for being about, I'd love to see him do Kamala. He should do Kamala. That would be beautiful. But he's a tough cookie, and he's the chairman of Bloomberg. He's a big So all of a sudden, I'm being interviewed. And I wasn't happy about it because I found out that he is, his reputation precedes him. And but I decided to do it. You have a choice: walk out and don't do it and have a scandal, or go in and do it and hopefully win, or you go in and do it and you get killed, which is probably the worst. But it was a great interview, actually. And he was nasty, but he wasn't overly nasty to me. I mean, other people thought he was. I thought nastier was David Muir when he kept interrupting me during the debate and saying false things, like when I said crime is way up, and he said, no, crime is down. I said, you're wrong about that. Crime is up. And then 2 days later, it came out that crime is up.
Right.
I mean, to me, that was much nastier than this gentleman. But it was really a study of business. It was a detailed study of business.
You're talking about with the Bloomberg one?
With the Bloomberg,
Right.
and people loved it.
I agree. The tariff one. And the one thing I wanted to show is the following. So you know how you talked about Jerome Powell, what an easy job. You come once a month and he said, we're going to increase the rates.
Greatest job there is.
I think this is the one thing they don't talk about. So Barack Obama got elected November 4th. Okay, quantitative easing started November 26th.
Right,
And it stayed for 8 years until you got elected.
right,
So if you look at that low, pretty much 0% interest rate,
right.
and then you get elected, right? If you go to January 2016, Rob, for the audience to see that. And then from there, one by one, rates are going up. And then Biden comes in, goes back down to zero to try to save the economy. And then, you know, the rest is obviously history.
Right.
But do you think the average person knows, like, the impact of going to 0%? How much does that positively help the impact when Fed lowers the rates to 0.5 point?
Yeah, it has a huge impact. The power of the Fed is, I think, pretty strong. Some people disagree with it. They think it's overridden by the interest rate climate. But I think the power of the Fed is very strong. It's an interesting graph, actually.
Yeah, this just shows that the rates didn't help you. You know, when he says it was...
Well, they didn't use them to help me.
Right.
And Powell, I gave him a hard time because he was raising them. And I was never a big fan of his. He was late and he was early. He was too early and too late, you know. But I had the greatest economy in history. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. Despite that, you know, this is another thing I can say, despite the fact that they weren't very high, but they were, you know, reasonably high. And despite the rates not being at zero, I had a pretty good, we had a great run.
Following up on the Barack Obama question, when I think about the 2024 election, I saw some numbers that came out, which I thought was fascinating.
Right.
Rob, if you can pull this up from CNN. So this is CNN reporting on this just 2 days ago. Okay, Barack Obama, when it comes down to black men ages 18 to 44, he was up 81 points in November of 2012. Hillary was up 63 when she went against you.
Yeah.
Biden was up 53. Kamala, who is apparently black, she's up 41. And
what do you mean by apparently?
I mean, that's what they're telling us. We're supposed to believe she's black.
No,
and, you know,
it's much better that, no. See, I would never say a thing like that. But you said, don't explain to what you mean. No, I don't want to put you in trouble.
Yeah, apparently. Well, I mean,
I was going to throw it onto your shoulders, apparently. Well, no, you know, you could explain it because I understand.
I'm very comfortable explaining it because overnight, you know, she's doing a show. She's supposed to be Indian. And then all of a sudden now it's black, but it's not landing with the average American. So if you look at
do you think black men, that's why she's not doing well?
Well, watch this.
Some people say that.
In 2016, you had 13%
right.
of male black voters 18 to 44.
Right.
In 2020, you had 18%. In 2024, you're at 26%. It's doubled in 8 years. The question I'm asking you is the following. Back in 1960,
right.
64% of African Americans would vote Democrat.
Right.
The other was pretty much conservative. African Americans have historically been very conservative.
Okay.
Barry Goldwater, the issue happens, 1964.
Right.
It goes from 64% Democrat to 92%. And it's been between 85 to 92% since 1964, right? You've come in and you've shaken things up. Do you think 2024 is going to be one of those moments where African-American men, they're like, listen, I'm sick and tired of Democrats feeling like they own me. I think I'm going to go to the other side. Do you think 2024 could be one of those years that we look back and say they lost the African-American vote?
They really lost it for a while, the Republicans. I mean, it started, I guess, with Barry Goldwater, if you look at the charts. But I did criminal justice reform. That's a big thing. They've been trying to get it. You know, I saw a guy named Van Jones. He's I don't think anybody knows who he is. He's a commentator for CNN. And he came to see me in the White House. And he was crying.
I remember that.
He was crying because I bring these things up because it's a lack of, I don't know, there's something about loyalty. You help somebody with something. He came in with a fairly large group of people, mostly black people. And he was devastated because criminal justice reform wasn't going to happen. Obama didn't do it, and didn't even come close. Bush didn't try. Nobody was going to do it. And I'm the only one that could have done it. And he was with a group of people that was, they were begging to do it. They were 5 votes short. And they had to be conservative votes because there was nobody else left, right? And I guess you needed the 61 or 60 something, maybe 66, but 61 is a hard vote. And he made a plea to me, Van Jones, total sleazebag. He made a plea to me to help him and help this group of people. And they explained how for years they've been trying to get it and they've been unable to get it. And I said, well, let's take a look at it. And I studied it for a little while and spoke to them. And I said, you know what, I'm going to help you. It's going to help the black people in particular. And I'm going to get it for you guys. And I called up 5 very conservative senators. And I'll never forget one of the senators who was in charge of it. He was literally leading the charge against it. And I mean, his whole career was this. He was going to stop criminal justice reform. Not because he was, anti-black, just he didn't like it. He didn't want it. And he was in the papers every day. He's fighting it, winning very easily. And I helped him get elected. Without me, he wouldn't have gotten elected. I'll never forget it. I called him up. Now, he's in the heat of passion. He is fighting this all the way. Not something he would ever give up. You couldn't, there's some things you can't. I call him up. He gets on the phone. I didn't say a word. I said, hello. And he goes, I'm giving it to you. I said, what are you giving me? I'm giving you criminal justice reform. That's why you're calling, right? I said, it is why I'm calling. He said, you got me elected. I disagree with you, but I'm giving it to you just like that. I said, that's one of the coolest things I've ever heard, because I also have the opposite where I got a lot of people elected. When I endorse somebody in history, and I don't want to brag, but in history, you can get another chart on that one. I mean, I'm like 289 and almost nothing for endorsements. And he said, you got me elected. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for you. And I did, but I got a lot of people elected, and some of them forget. And I said, that's the coolest thing. I said, thank you. I said, do you mind if I call a couple of the... Nope, you do whatever you want. Now, this is a guy who was the leader of the fight. I didn't even ask. He knew what I was calling for because he knew that I was going to help Van Jones, this Van Jones guy. I was going to help him. And you'll understand why I'm being nasty to him now, because what happened later is disgraceful. So I said, thank you very much, Senator. I'm so happy that I did help you. I think loyalty is a great thing. And that was it. So I had his vote. I then called 4 other guys, all of whom were against it. And I said, I'd love to have. And they, they don't do it for a lot of presidents, but they do it for me. And I got them 5 votes that they needed, and criminal justice reform passed, right? Then, and I was happy for them. I was happy for everybody. Everybody was happy. They couldn't believe they got it done. And it was something that really the black population wanted far more than anybody else. I've never even heard it mentioned with other people. It was mostly the black population. And they've been fighting it for like, what, you'd say 40, 50 years, right?
64.
So we got
40,
it done.
50 years, yeah.
Yeah. So I got it done. I got something done. I got a lot of things done that nobody else could have gotten done. So what happens is Van Jones and all, they called for a news conference that night. The vote was taken. They got it done. And I said to my wife, come on over here. This is beautiful. This is a beautiful thing to watch. Watch this. This gentleman was in my office a number of weeks ago, and he needed votes, and I got it done. It'll be nice to watch somebody really say something nice about your husband. I said that to Melania, and I said, watch this. And they got up and they spoke. But Van Jones got up, and it was a little, I don't get too embarrassed. He got up, he thanked this one, he thanked that one, he thanked this one, that one, that one. The only one he didn't thank was Donald Trump. And I look at that sleazebag now and I say, he's got bad way. I looked at him. Then I saw him last night, and he was on CNN, which is dying, by the way, in the ratings, because they have people like him on. And I watched him last night say how he hopes I'll be defeated. And we should defeat him. We have to fight him. He shouldn't be allowed to be. And I said, normally I'd say I wish I had that vote back, but I did the right thing. But
why do I think he praised you? Why do I think he got emotional crying, giving you credit about what you did?
I don't know. All I can tell you is he was crying in my office. That's probably what you heard. Before he got it, he was crying. He was literally, they went over to him with handkerchiefs. He was crying. Tears were pouring down his eyes before, but after he wasn't crying, not that I know. But so he didn't mention me the night of the news conference. He was leading the news conference, and I don't need it. I get mentioned plenty of times, et cetera, et cetera. But I watched last night. It's a good place to say this, actually. It's better than writing out a truth, whatever. But I watched last night, and I watched him talk about how I must be defeated. I'm a bad guy or something. And
Van Jones is saying this.
Yeah. He said it last night. I saw him last night. I don't watch CNN. Honestly, I don't watch it. But I happen to be, I'm passing it, and I see him on, and I watched him talking about essentially negative about me. What difference does it make? Nobody cares what they do. They have, they've been fighting me for years, and, I became president. I did much better the second time than I did the first, and now I'm doing it the third time. And if the election's not rigged, we're going to win. If it is rigged, I guess that's a different story, but we'll find out pretty soon. But I watched this guy last night against me, even if he was a little against me, but he wasn't. He was like, we have to defeat Trump. We have to defeat him. And I've watched him a little bit over the years, and every time I watch him, I say, what a sleazebag he is, what a bad guy. But I did it for black people. I did it for, it was purely, the only people that told me about criminal justice reform were African Americans, that's all. And I did it for them. I also did historically black colleges and universities, and I got them financing. I would see the heads of colleges come down after 2 years. They would come to Washington, like 45, 50 people, a group. They'd always come in, a big group. And I got to know them a little bit because they had to come through my office to get funding. And after the second time, I said to him, why do you keep coming down here for funding? Don't they give you? He said, no, they make us feel like beggars. That was the term. And a couple of them I got really frustrated. Some of them I still see a little bit. And I said, what does that mean? He said, every year we come down for funding for the black colleges and universities. And they play a great role, a very important role, in my opinion. So I said, so you mean every year you come down? We do. We come down together, and we go and see senators and congressmen, and we try seeing a president. But I got to know him, and I said, this is no way to live where you come down. And I ended up getting them more money than they even wanted. And I got it done, and I got it long term. And I said, fellas, I just got this done for you, and I want to tell you a little secret. I'm unhappy about it. They said, why? I said, because I'll probably never see you again. You'll never come down to Washington to see me. And I meant it actually in a friendly way because I got used to seeing them. They were always coming down looking for money. I took care of their needs long term, more money than they wanted. I said, you're going to need more money than that. And I got it for them. And I think that's why black men really like me. And I think black women do too. But they have a woman who is black, although you would say she's Indian, but she is black. But she really, a lot of people didn't know, which is true. But
I learned about it just a couple months ago. The fact
that she's black, or that she's Indian.
The fact that she's black, I thought she was Indian until a couple months ago. Things change.
A lot of people. Well,
because if you follow baseball, Sammy Sosa kind of, you sometimes have to respect people. They change,
Sammy.
right? So I thought maybe she was doing a Sammy Sosa the other way.
Yeah, Sammy's changed.
Right.
People change.
If you remember Sammy Sosa,
he could hit the ball.
He could hit the ball 66 home runs.
Seriously, he was.
But I want to show you this. And by the way, the only reason I want to show you this is because I think Van Jones is scared of giving you credit. This is what Van Jones said after what you did. And it was the most uncomfortable moment on CNN because he had to thank you. If you can play this clip, Rob, I think this is the clip. Go for it.
How significant do you think this is? By the way, one of your partners in working on this was Jared Kushner.
Jared Kushner, who's
This is how many years ago? This is
the date on 29. This 5 years ago, December 18th, 2018.
Okay, play the clip.
So you just got that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so this is 6 years ago. If you can play this clip.
father went to prison and who fought on this as hard as that. This is history. This is history. Right now, you're witnessing history on the floor of the U.S. Senate. There's a Christmas miracle underway where, for the first time in a generation, Republicans and Democrats are arm in arm tonight saying, we are sending too many people to prison. They're coming out bitter and not better. We want to make a tremendous difference. I want to say Hakeem Jeffries on the left, Jared Kushner, and Donald Trump on the right have brought together a coalition like I've never seen.
He gave you credit.
Literally, the National Association of Manufacturers, Fox News,
I never saw
and
that
Sean
one.
Yeah, I'm glad you've seen it because to
me,
me, you see, when I think about him, obviously, you know, his history. He was close to Obama, communist, all that stuff. He had to kind of drop. But at the same time, they don't want him saying something like this. I want to give Hakeem Jeffries, Jared, and you to give that credit. This is the part where even Dems are sitting there saying, how the hell do we argue against the fact that a Republican president that we're not supposed to like did this? Cut him off. Just give him 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Let's go to the next topic to bash him again. But it was kind of great to see Van Jones saying this about you.
It was, but again, right after that, it was over.
He has to go back.
So
he has to go
he went
back.
back.
To saying
and
things
a
about
real,
you.
a real man would not have done that. And I'm glad I saw that. But it really doesn't mean anything because he said it, and then after that, he took it back.
I want to show you something, and this kind of goes maybe to the next point. So yesterday, a new Gallup poll came out. Okay, if you look at this Gallup poll, this is literally from yesterday. Americans' trust in mass media from 72 to 2024. It officially hit the lowest in the history. We're talking ever. Not one of the lowest. This is the lowest ever in the history of America. Americans don't trust mass media anymore. And even recently, I don't know if you saw the numbers that came out 2 weeks ago. I'm sure you follow some of this stuff. Every one of the guys at CNN, MSNBC, they're all getting a lower salary when they're renewing their contract.
Right,
they're not getting paid the kind of money
that.
they were making.
Yeah.
And by the way, you may not like me saying this to you, but I think I kind of want to see your reaction to this. I know a lot of people will say, well, you know, he has, XYZ amount of felonies charged, 91, 53 were dismissed, 32 is this, and 12 are the ones that are remaining. I think the only one that Letitia James, Jack Smith, and maybe even Fannie, if they wanted to, claim that you did commit a crime, is you kind of did kill mainstream media, if you think about it.
I did.
And that could be a crime for those guys.
I'm very proud of it.
And I want to show you this clip because this is the first time ever the phrase fake news was ever used. And from this moment on is when the decline started. Rob, if you can go on and play this clip.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are attacking our news organization.
Your organization.
Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state,
Quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state categorically,
She's asking a question. Don't
Mr.
be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you
No,
give
I'm not
us a
going to give you a
question?
question. I'm not going to give you a
Can
question.
you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
Go ahead.
can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not
Go ahead.
appropriate.
So if you can
But
pause it
isn't
there.
that disgusting? Think of it. And that would never happen to a Democrat. But isn't that disgusting? He's a lowlife, the guy, and as you know. But and he has his own show. He gets no ratings at all. Nobody on CNN gets ratings. But isn't that a disgusting? I'm just watching that, and isn't it a shame that people can behave that way against the president? And I think I think I'm responsible for those numbers up there where they went down. And frankly, I'm proud of it because I also am responsible for the term fake news. And that's a great term, but it's not strong enough. I think it's corrupt news is a better term, but it doesn't play as well. But they're corrupt people and disgusting people. But he is... He wasn't as bad as some. I mean, in a certain way, he was louder, but he wasn't as smart as some. I mean, some are much smarter. He's not as smart.
Did you think you were going to say fake news, or was it just kind of came out and then it stuck? You're like, this is going to stick. Was it intentional?
I don't know if that's the first time I've used it, But I do get credit for having been an originator of the term. I mean, a lot of times I have a very fertile mind. I come up with very good names for people.
You're very creative.
Pocahontas,
Yes.
Lots of good names. But, I don't know if that's the first time, but I thought of that term often. And more so as I was running. I actually used to get great press when I was an entrepreneur. I would get very glamorous press, very beautiful press.
Mm-hmm.
I went the exact opposite. And I was amazed. And I really learned how corrupt it was. I didn't think of it as that corrupt because, I'd do something and they give me credit. But no, I had a very different life, actually, when you think about it. But then I run for president. So 92% of the people that run for presidents, 92% were politicians and 8% were generals. So I wasn't a politician. I wasn't a general. So I was the only one that wasn't in that group. No, there were no admirals. They were all either politicians or they were sort of an interesting point. Most people don't know that. Some people said that's interesting.
That
Other
makes
people
sense
say
because
that's...
even Reagan would be a politician because he was a two-term governor.
Well, he was a politician.
Right, he was a politician.
He was a governor. There were some that were businessmen, but they then ran for the Senate or they were in Congress, and they went from there to the presidency. But nobody ever went right to the presidency. I never ran for office. All of a sudden, I'm president, and I really learned about the press early and the hard way because I went from one extreme to the other. I got great press, and then all of a sudden, I was treated like by a moron like that, and I fought them very hard. They're very dishonest. They're very corrupt. Not all of them, but a big percentage of them. I would say in the 80s, that's a lot. That's a lot. Big percentage. They're very corrupt. Very corrupt.
Have they always been? Has it always been the case? You've been around media, TV.
I don't think it's ever
life.
been like this. Yeah, I've been around it for a long time. I don't think it's ever been like this.
When do you think it flipped?
When I started off, Patrick, I used to have a story written about me. And without fail, somebody would call after the story was written but not published. And they were called fact checkers. Hello, sir. We're calling about a story that we wrote about you. Is it true that you own this? And is it true that you did this? And that you spent X dollars? Could we check that number? Blah, blah, blah. And it would go on for a while to a point where you'd get somebody else to just do it. But they, without fail, I'd have, if there were any details in a story, not always, but if there were any details, always, and they would call fact checkers. Hello, sir. My name's Jim Smith. I'm a fact checker for the New York Times. And they check the facts of a story. And I think they at least were trying to be real. I haven't had a fact checker call me in 30 years. They don't call anymore.
Do you think that's because of the Fairness Doctrine Act of 1987? Because prior to that, the media platforms had to actually give both sides of the story. And then once that was dropped, they lost the accountability. They could say whatever they want to say. And it was kind of free-for-all. Let me go after them. But for you, when you became a president, if someone's running for office, you have to sit there and think about issues. Here's what I'm running on. Wall, border, economy, XYZ. Great. Obama, I'm going to go after healthcare. Jimmy Carter, I'm going to go human rights. You pick and choose what you're running for. But there's also an element of who are going to be my allies, who are going to be my enemies. Did you sit there and say, the enemy of the people is media, I'm going to go after them? Or did you say, no, this happened accidentally? Was this intentional or was it accidental?
I think it's just long-term happened. It morphed into it. I don't think they said...
I'm talking specifically for you, though.
Yeah. For me, look, I'm the worst case because there's nobody been abused like I have. And I don't think, although I guess probably some, but for a shorter period of time. There's nobody for over such a long...
Who would you put? You even thought about it. Who do you think?
I'd have to think short-term people have been abused. Yeah,
worse
over
than...
one deal and they're gone or something.
I got it.
But I've been doing this for a long time. Right. And I abuse them also. So, I do that.
But did you target them and say, I'm going to go attack media and I'm going to go after them? Is that part of strategy that you had? Or no, that was just, if you come after me, I'm going to come after you?
No, I think it's a natural instinct with me, like it would be for you and other people that know how to win a little bit.
Sure.
No, but I really saw it in politics. I would tell them something and they would write the opposite. I said, what's that all about? I called up, the Washington Post was treating me very bad. New York Times is probably the worst, but the two of them are really bad. And I know how to deal with the press. I'm a professional, I'm a smart guy, and I know. So I said, watch, I'm going to call the press in, Washington Post, during my first or second year. And I said, I'm going to call the Washington Post. I'm not going to joke. I'm not going to be cute. I'm not going to be a wise guy. I'm going to just call them in, and I want to talk. And I'm going to explain what a great job I've done on different things, like the economy. I had a great economy, all that. And I called them in. I was very nice. I didn't say, hey, how's it going? Everything was really professional. The numbers were fantastic. Everything was perfect. And I treated them with great respect, shook their hand, and it was over. And the next day they wrote a horrible story. It was, and I said, there's no way around it. And usually it's the liberal side, and I don't understand it really. Why wouldn't they want to have a strong border? I don't understand them because, usually like in business, you'll understand why somebody wants something. Why wouldn't they want to have a strong border? Why do they want to have men playing in women's sports? I watched the Olympics and two people transitioned into womanhood. Two people. They went from man to woman and they were into boxing. And they beat the hell out of everyone. They won the gold medal. Weightlifting. Records that held for 18 years, a quarter of an ounce on each side. You've seen me do it probably because it's so cool. I mean, weightlifting is so easy to, it's so descriptive, right? How can you be better than that? Like golf is a little bit harder because you have to sink putts. That's different. Women can putt, but they can't lift, 450 pounds over their head. And the weightlifting record that stood for 18, 19 years gets broken by 100 pounds. They put like a little, they take this top of this pen. See that pen? That thing weighs like an eighth of an ounce. And they'd put one over here and one over. They couldn't do it for 18 years. So the guy comes along. It's crazy.
I mean, the border could make sense, though. If you were to say, why would they want the border to be
why
open?
Do they want an open
argument
border?
To be made there.
Well, why do they want an open border with no check-in? In other words, there's nobody vetted, nobody checked. And as you heard 2 weeks ago, the Border Patrol put out the numbers. They weren't supposed to, but they did because they had to. Because they had to inherently, they endorsed me.
I saw that.
They
Powerful.
endorsed me. 100% unanimous, like a massive, they said he's the greatest in the history of, I had the best border in the history of the country. I had the best economy in the history of the country. But you take a look at some of these stats. So yesterday, a young woman's playing volleyball. You saw that shot? And he got hit by a hard shot by a man who transitioned.
There's been many of those. If there was a new one yesterday.
She got hit in the head.
So
she didn't know where she was.
Right.
She said, I've never seen a ball travel at that speed before. But here's why do they want that? I don't understand that. Usually you understand, like somebody wants something. You try and figure it out. And you could go through a lot of things. Why do they want transgender? Why do they want to take somebody's child, a boy, and make the boy into a girl and not tell the parents? I mean, they do this. And at first I said, no, but that's just an exaggeration. No, it's not. It's really not.
State of California.
Why do they want to? Yeah. Well, look at California, Gavin Newsom, who's one of the worst governors, but he's got a good line of stuff, and he'll tell everyone how well he's done. But it's the first time they've ever lost more people than they gained. They have such an advantage. The beautiful ocean, the beautiful weather, everything is beautiful. And they run it so badly with all of the problems. They run it so. He's a crummy governor, but why is it so? Yesterday, and who would sign the bill to even present it to him? He signed a bill that you're not even allowed to ask for voter ID. In other words, it's not like you can't have voter ID. That's terrible, because everybody should have voter ID. You have ID for everything. The Democrats had big ID. When they had their convention, a friend of mine couldn't get in. He said he doesn't have the proper credentials. They want voter ID. They had a strong ID. They had an ID that you had to wear, like a prisoner wears, with a number. It was like this big card with a picture and everything over their tie. So they have it for the Democrat National Convention, right? But they don't want to have it for the vote. But Gavin Newsom signed a thing that was incredible. he signed a bill that if you ask somebody for identification having to do with voting, I think you've committed a crime, okay? Now, there's only one reason that happens, because they want to cheat. There's no other reason. There's no conceivable.
But are you surprised? I mean, part of me is not surprised with that. I'm not sitting there thinking I'm surprised with what some of these states are doing. California, I mean, you know, there's a reason why he lost two states lost $1 trillion of money under management from 2020. New York and California. They got destroyed. And the first time they had net negative migration in California since 1851, it hasn't happened. Then they got it back to back to back. So, and he just announced 2 days ago that he's raising gas taxes by 47 cents in the state of California. No wonder people are leaving. But I want to go to the tariffs conversation.
Because he doesn't
with
want gas vehicles. He wants to use all electric vehicles.
It's not going to work for him, though. It's not going to work for him. They're
going
to get destroyed. No, I mean, he's already lost Musk. How do you lose Tesla? How do you lose Musk out of your state?
I asked Elon. He takes this massive company, and he left California.
Mm-hmm.
I just asked him this question yesterday. I said, when you left, because he's got a good thing in Texas, I said, when you left, did Newsom, I call him Newsom because I think it's a more accurate name, but did Gavin Newsom call and say, can we talk? I want to take you out to dinner. I want you to keep your company.
What did he say?
He said he never called.
Your biggest entrepreneur in your state leaves, you don't call.
Number one, biggest guy. Number two, big company, very big company. But a big oil company left also, taking thousands of jobs.
Wow.
But my question wasn't that, you know, that he left for whatever. I mean, did anybody ever call? He said, no. I said, did Newsom call you at all? Did he, call and say, can we have dinner? I'd love you to stay here, and we'll work out some tax benefits or something, you know, some incentive to stay. He said, never called. I was amazed at that. And you're talking about thousands of workers and prestige. And having Elon is...
That is wild that you lose and you don't make the phone call.
You know, Elon endorsed me very strongly a while ago. And there's no stronger endorsement. He said that if Trump doesn't get elected, this country is going down the tubes. It might not ever survive. He said it's the most important election. I was honored, but I was amazed because I asked him two days ago. I said, did anybody make a play to keep you? Now think of it. You would, if you were governor, you heard a big company's leaving. I would.
First phone call.
At least you're calling, say, is there anything we can do to keep you, right?
You know what I like about, and I do want to go to the tariffs, and I think this is a great transition. Tim Cook, they asked him, they said, why would you have a meeting with President Trump? Because he's the only president that called me. Oh, okay, let's talk about something else. Of course he's going to have a meeting with if the guy's calling. Why wouldn't you call the CEO of your $3 trillion company? But let's talk
just
tariffs.
spoke to Tim Cook.
Tim,
can I tell you?
I think he's a quality CEO. Go for it.
So, if I'm
when you say just talk,
people,
when did you talk to him? Like how recent?
2 hours ago.
Okay.
He called me. I didn't call him. And let me give you just a little. The nice part about this long format, you can talk.
Yes.
Right. It's very nice. It's something very, as opposed to bing, 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 bing. That's why long format is working. Right?
Yes.
But I just talked to him. But I believe that if Tim Cook didn't run Apple, if Steve Jobs did, it wouldn't, maybe it would be, but it wouldn't be nearly as successful.
Wow, what a statement to
make. I think so. Because I think Tim Cook Tim Cook's done an amazing job. And I'm not knocking Steve Jobs. I just think that it wouldn't have been. So I'll tell you a couple of stories. So about second term of second year, I get a call, and they say Tim Cook's on the phone. He calls. He said, could I see you, sir? No, he's the head of Apple. And I was born in Queens, and I said, oh, the head of Apple wants to see me. Let's go, I guess. Even though I'm president, Still, I was born in Queens, and the head of Apple's calling. And by that time, it was the largest company in the world. It's the largest.
Sure, yeah.
In terms of value at that time. I don't know what it is now, but it was. So he comes in to see me. And it was about tariffs. He said, you're charging us 25% because I was going to charge them because we're out of China. And the problem is we can't compete with Samsung because they didn't have to pay tariffs because they weren't in China and they were in South Korea. And he said, it's not really possible for me. And I did waivers, standard waivers. It's not possible for me to compete with them if I have to pay a tax and they don't to get our product into the United States. I said, I agree with you. It didn't take long. I mean, I sort of got it, right? And I said, I'm going to give you a waiver, and I gave him a waiver. But I'm going to give you a 1-year waiver, but I want you to start building your plants in the United States. And he said, all right. And he actually did. He built one in Texas. He would have built a lot more, but we had